Hey guys, hi. In this video we're gonna see how and what we'll be doing Lab 4. You're going to do Lab 4 today, so I hope you can have enough time to watch this video. Now, the reason why I decided to show this video, show you what to do here before you actually do it in our lab class, is because there are a few details that if you see that before, you won't spend too much time work on that. And also there are a few details that you need to understand before you do it. Okay, so let's just go straight to what we need to do. The objective of the lab is to familiarize with the Windows Server 2000, well, actually 16, but it's all the same. What you do in one, you can do in the other one. We're using 2016. Management environment, and introduce you to the creation and management basic Active Directory objectives, as well as the creation of Active Directory users and groups. So as you can see here, the main goal of this lab is to help you better understand, not only to do it, not only to deploy, to use Active Directory in the way that it manages a domain, a Windows domain. Yes, that as well. But not only that, it will help you understand, like I said in our previous class, some very abstract concepts. For example, organizational unit, how you create a forest. What is a forest? And in that forest, you have the trees. What is a tree? And under a tree, you're going to have the branches, right? Or the leaves. And the idea here is to understand what that means, to finally use organizational units. Now, this is a team assignment, but you must submit it as individuals, with all submitted work being your own. What it means is that although each group has only one Windows 16 server, all of you must take screenshots and do complete that file, create that file. So it's not just one submission per group, it's one submission per person, okay? So again, each of you must answer the deliverables. It cannot be, let's say, just one person doing all the, answering all the questions, doing all the deliverables, and submitting it. Okay, so then you have the actions, right? From your fellow classmates. Oh, by the way, so these groups, these are the project groups, okay? You know your peers already, so those are going to be your colleagues. From your fellow classmates, form teams of no more than 4 members. Again, you already have that, okay? Each team has been assigned a Windows Server 2019 instance. There are 12 Windows Server 2019 16 instances available for this exercise, one for each 4-member team. Deliverable 1, write your name, the number of your team, the name of our partners, and the date. Okay, now, connect to the CCI virtual environment. In our previous lab, in Lab 3, right, that Jonah was actually very helpful and he conducted that lab, you saw that you could, so there are 2 ways of managing your Windows 2016. One is you connect to your Windows 10 workstation, and from your Windows 10 workstation, you use tight VNC to connect to the group Windows 16. Or you can directly connect to Windows 16. Ideally, you want to connect to Windows 10 and use tight VNC to connect to the server, to Windows 16. But that's only necessary in situations where you will need to use both. So you're going to have to do some things in Windows 2016 in your server and other things in the client, which is the Windows 10 workstation. If you're only doing stuff in Windows 2016, the server, then you do not need to connect to Windows 10 workstation and then use tight VNC. So it depends on the situation, okay? The reason why I'm explaining that is because, yes, here we are going to use, we are going to do I will only connect to the Windows Server 2016 because I'm not going to use my workstation. I don't need to do any client tasks, okay? But again, it's totally up to you. Now, the first step is to install Active Directory management tools. Before we do that, let me show you something. I am first going to connect to my, and this is valid for all of you, okay? You are not going to do what I'm going to show now. I just want to explain what's going on here. It's very important. I'm first going to connect to my own Windows 16 server. Now, my 16 server is the Active Directory server, okay? Which is not the case of yours. So it's my own server. It's the Active Directory, the domain server, right here, this one. So again, you are not going to connect to my Windows 16 server, which is Lab Win1613. You're not going to do that. But I want to show you some important things here, some important details here, okay? First of all, you can see here that, okay, there is my computer name, and your Windows 16 will have that as well. And the full name is the computer name, and it is in the cci-lab.local domain, Windows domain, Microsoft domain. That is one thing that you're going to do in this lab, in Lab 4, which is include your server, your 16 server, in this domain. However, you are not going to transform your server into an Active Directory server. You're going to join it in the domain, but you won't make it an Active Directory server. My machine, on the other hand, is the Active Directory server. Why am I saying that? Well, because this is the machine I want to show you, that this is the machine that is controlling, for example, the DHCP, the network configuration. So it's the DHCP server. This is where you're going to have all the, in Lab 4, there's a step in which you're going to take a look at the users and groups, and you are actually going to create users and groups in the Microsoft domain. Now, when you do that, you're going to see that the users that you see, they are in here. They are in here. So I just wanted to illustrate to you that, again, your Windows server is not going to be a controller, a domain controller. It's not going to be a DC. However, when you join the domain and you come here and take a look at the users that you can see and use, you're going to see, for example, Diogo, which is not a user that you have in your local machine. So the reason why you see that is because my domain controller here will be providing a bunch of data to your Windows 16 servers, such as groups and users. You are also going to see, so when you open this tool at a specific moment, and we're going to look at that, you're going to come here to the CCI lab domain, and you're going to see this organizational unit here, team 13, which is my organizational unit. And you're going to create your own. So let's say that your group number is 8. You're going to create team 8 here, the organizational unit, team 8. I will be able to see that organizational unit. Now, what one can do, I'm sorry, if one can touch the other organizational unit, that's another thing, that's another conversation. But we'll be able to see those organizational units here, okay? So let me close this and let's take a look at what you need to do. So the first thing that you need to do is to install the management tools, the Active Directory management tools, okay? Now observe, once again, however your Teams Windows Server 2016 computer, the server to which you're presently connected, is still only a member server and will not have installed the tools you will need to complete this assignment. So it's very important to understand this. Although you are going to install Active Directory management tools, your machine, your server, won't become an Active Directory server, okay? So how you're going to do that? From the Start button, you're going to select Server Management. Probably this window will be already open in your machine, but if it's not, again, Start button, select Server Management. In Server Management, select Add. So you can follow the steps here so that you install the Active Directory domain services. The tools for the Active Directory domain services and the capability for the server to become a domain controller. You won't be promoting this server to domain control. This is very important, okay, guys? Because if you do, so at a okay, so you continue the installation, right? You move forward until you complete the installation of the Active Directory Domain Services tool. At the end, there you're going to see a pop-up window that will ask whether you want to promote your server to a domain controller. Do not do that. If you do that, you're going to mess up our entire Microsoft domain, okay? But again, we do need the tools in order to allow our server to join the Active Directory domain, the Microsoft domain, okay? Once the tools have been installed, how can you access them? Go to the Start button, and then you're going to see Windows Administrative Tools. In the Windows Administrative Tools, you're going to double-click the Active Directory Users and Computers. That's the tool that I just showed you in my Windows server, okay? Well, the first thing that it will tell you is, remember that this server is only a standalone server. It has only local users and groups, so there are no Active Directory users or groups for the tool to manage, and the tools warn you of this. So basically, it will tell you, hey, you want to take a look at the users and groups that you have in the Active Directory domain, but your machine is not even in the AD domain yet. You can only see local users and groups. That's what it's saying. And you say, oh, okay, still, I want to open the Active Directory Users and Computers tool. Okay, it will open, but here's what you're going to get. Do you see that red X there? That means that you are not part of the AD domain. Okay? So, okay, If that's the case, you could change domain so that you could attach the tool to a domain in which AD users and AD groups actually exists. Meaning, you can tell your Windows machine, your Windows 16 machine, hey, I want to join this domain, okay? But when you do that for the first time, this is what you're gonna get, okay? The domain CCI Lab DOM could not be found because the server is not operational, okay? If you simply try to, I'm sorry, to change that domain. However, when you get to this point, when you get to the point where you change your domain, and we're gonna see how that happens, it will work because I created the Active Directory domain server. I created the domain controller. That's the machine that I showed you guys. Okay, so let's join our Windows server to the root domain, to the CCI Lab DOM.local domain. How are we going to do that? You're going to right-click on the Start button, and you're going to see System. You're going to open System. In there, you're going to see that you don't belong to a Microsoft domain. You belong to a workgroup called Workgroup. You're going to click here on Change Settings, and make sure that you rename your machine following our pattern, lab-win16. It's a little bit different here. Lab-win16- let's say 10. Okay? Member of domain, and you're going to enter the domain name exactly as you see here. CCI-lab-dom-loc. Okay? Now, in order to join a domain, you have to have the credentials. Because remember, this domain is being controlled by a domain controller, which is my Active Directory. The domain controller will basically say, hey, to join my domain, you need valid credentials so that I allow you to do that. And these are the valid credentials that you're going to inform, okay? CCI-lab-dom /admin light, and the password will be given in class. Although you already know it, but I will confirm it in class. Once you do that, it will say, welcome to the CCI lab-dom.loc domain, and now you just need to restart your computer to join the domain. Once you've done it, you're going to see this screen, which is not what you'll be using, okay? Remember, to join the domain, you need a user that exists in the domain. And the one that I just told you is the admin light. So you're going to click on Other User, and you're going to inform admin light and then the password. Now, observe that it's saying sign in to CCI Lab DOM. If it doesn't say that, you have to write here CCI-lab-dom /admin light, and then the same password. Okay, now, if you go again to, if you right click on the Start button, System, you're going to see that you belong to this domain now. There you go. Domain CCI lab-dom.loc. And now your computer name has the DNS domain as well attached to the end of it. So for example, here, if the computer name is lab-win1613, you see lab-win1613.cci-lab-dom.loc. Okay? Once again, when you open the computer management tool, do not, if it tells you that you can promote your server to a domain controller. Do not do that, okay? Okay. So for deliverable 4, in which mode is your team server presently operating? Standalone, member, or domain controller? It's not standalone because, remember, standalone is when you are just a machine sharing folders, sharing files. No, you just joined a domain, so you are a domain member. However, you did not promote your server to a domain controller. You are not a domain controller. You are a member. Now, going back to the users and groups in the Active Directory domain that you could not see, let's do that again. So right-click on the Start button, go to Computer Management, open the Computer Management tool. You remember this as the tool in which you created local users and groups in the previous lab. Using this tool, check the membership of the local administrators group. So basically, you use this tool in Lab 3, right, to create users and groups. These are the local users and groups that you have. Okay, now, you're going to see that when you open the Active Directory users and computers, you're going to see a bunch of users here. And I think that I have it somewhere, don't I? No, I don't. Okay. But I'll show you that. You're going to see that it will list a bunch of users that do not exist here, okay? Or did not exist here. That's because you are a member of the domain, and now you can see and use users and groups that exist in the domain. Now, finally, you're going to create your team's organizational unit in the root domain. Your team will now create for itself an organizational unit that will serve as the context for the next several labs. You need to use the Active Directory users and computers tool for this. So you go to the Start button, open the Windows Administrative Tools, open the Active Directory users and computers tool, which you did in the past, so you know how to do that. In case you prefer to type the tool that you want to use and not go clicking your way to there, you can simply right-click the Start menu and type, click on Run and type dsa.msc. It will open the same tool here, Active Directory users and computers. Okay? In Active Directory users and computers, you're also going to see your domain, the domain that you are now part of, cci-lab-dom.local. Okay? You're going to right-click on it, go to New Organizational Unit. You can name it whatever. I recommend doing team dash your team number. Okay? You're going to see that your organizational unit now exists in the cci-lab-dom.local domain. Again, any machine that is member of this domain will now be able to see that organizational unit. Obviously, again, it depends on credentials, but you can, if you have the right credentials, you can get access to that organizational unit. So, why are we creating this organizational unit? Because again, let's remember, and this is where you can see the way that the hierarchical structure of a Active Directory domain is deployed. We have our domain. Under our domain, we can have different organizational units. Each team will have its own organizational unit. And under that specific organizational unit, you're going to create your own groups and your own users. okay? And you'll see that the result will be that those groups and users that you create will be under your organizational unit. So you are organizing the Windows domain as a tree, and then you can use credentials. You can establish permissions. Who can go to whom? Who can see whatever in another organizational unit? So you are creating ramifications. You are organizing the structure and also establishing security to that structure. Also, you can observe that, as we talked before, here what we can see is the Microsoft domain, and under that, or Active Directory domain, under that domain you have the organizational units, right? You also have some internal controls here, okay, which we'll talk more about at the right time. But under the domain we have the organizational units, but we must remember that the domains, they will fall under a tree, and the tree belongs to a forest, correct? Well, in this case, we only have a forest composed of a tree composed of one domain. We can also create several domains under this same tree. And we can also create subdomains, domains under CCI Lab DOM as well. So as you can see, you can create a very specific and well-structured hierarchy using Active Directory. Okay? So that's what you need to do for this lab. Pretty straightforward, actually, but it will help you understand some concepts involved in Active Directory, and you also do some things here that are a requirement, that are needed for our following labs. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.